There's no worse feeling than being sleep deprived, but it's something we've all experienced. Now imagine going days without sleep until you can't live anymore. In fact, let's imagine a scenario where, for some absurd and tragic reason, your body can no longer sleep. What would happen to your mind and body? When would you die? Let's go step by step, hour by hour, day by day to the very end, 0 to 24 hours without sleep. This is something most of us have gone through. But after just a few hours without sleep, your brain starts functioning as if you were drunk. Literally. One study found that being awake for 17 hours reduces your performance, the same as having 0.05 grams of alcohol in your blood. Your prefrontal cortex slows down, your memory fails, and you start having lapses in attention. The stress hormone, cortisol, rises. Your immune system begins to weaken. And worst of all, you don't even realize you're performing poorly. Your judgment is already impaired. 24 to 48 hours. For doctors or those who work long shifts, let me tell you that this is when the first microsleeps appear. Your brain shuts down for a few seconds, even though your eyes remain open. In fact, people who drive in this state often experience microsleeps and crash on the road. This is also when the limbic system, the emotional part of the brain, comes into play. You're irritable, anxious, and more impulsive. It's as if you want to listen to 5 conversations at the same time and understand none of them. You might even experience tremors or double vision. Your body starts crying out for help. 48 to 72 hours later, your brain is so exhausted that you start daydreaming. You can literally see things that aren't there. Voices, figures, shadows. This happens because you haven't entered REM sleep, the phase where vivid dreams occur for too long, and since you can't dream them while asleep, your brain starts bringing them into your waking life. This is when some people begin talking to themselves, having delusions, or disconnecting from reality. The body remains awake, but you are no longer there. In fact, many severe insomniacs say, I feel like I'm going crazy. Days 4 to 5. Here there is a cognitive and physical collapse. You can no longer hold a coherent conversation. Your blood pressure is in chaos. The heart begins to fail. The body enters survival mode, burning muscle, lowering its temperature, and hormonal imbalances. The damage is multisystemic. There is immune failure, widespread inflammation, and neurological deterioration. At this point, some animal studies already show mortality from physiological collapse. Days 6 to 10. This is the finish line where the mind is broken and the body is exhausted. The most famous case is Randy Gardner, who in 1965 managed to stay awake for 11 days. And how did it end? He saw things that weren't there, couldn't remember who he was, had tremors, paranoia, and uncontrollable laughter. He survived, but it took him weeks to recover his mental health. In rats, death occurs between days 10 and 14 from infections, fever, and multiple organ failure. So, how many days can you survive without sleep? Science doesn't have an exact number because conducting this experiment on humans would be completely inhumane. But from what we know, the record for surviving without dying is 11 days. In studies with rats, they died between days 11 and 14 from multiple organ failure. In humans, you'd probably die between days 10 and 15, although your mind would have shut down much sooner. And why not more? Because without sleep, thermoregulation is lost, the immune system collapses, and the body enters a metabolic storm. And most importantly, the human mind wasn't designed to be permanently awake. So the answer is clear. A human probably doesn't survive more than 10 to 15 days without sleep, and by the end, you wouldn't even know you were alive. And well, sleep isn't a break. It's a mandatory maintenance of your existence. And you? What's the longest you've gone without sleep? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe.